Greetings and God bless. I am listening to the audiobook Nixon, which is about the Danish art of doing nothing. And this has an interesting point I just wanted to share. So I'm like, it won't record off of my device for some reason right now. So I'm just going to play it and then tell you what it says. So there was a Gallup poll worldwide where it was found that Americans were more stressed than most people elsewhere. They were the most angriest, most stressed, most worried than they've been in a decade. So being under 50, having a low income, and avoiding avoiding being a fan of the tea man, the orange man, were all associated with mental health struggles. So apparently, yeah. So I just thought that was very interesting, like hilarious actually, because I know people who support Trump and it's been pretty stressful. People are pretty stressed out. So I wonder if it might be actually people uh, that they probably in this poll they probably didn't talk about people who went to church, people who believe in God, people who are saved in Jesus. Like these polls are never gonna ask or even know about the supernatural help, of being born again, of taking refuge in the kingdom of God, right? I mean, these folks don't know. So maybe, compared to people who hate Jesus, compared to people who hate the Bible, who hate God, um, they're going to be more stressed out and they're probably going to be more anti orange man. And I'm just saying that to try to get out of the issues of the log algorithm AI stuff. But I mean, I don't support him myself. Um, so, so I don't think that's an automatic. I think the poll might have just been finding. I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Finding more people who are because more Christians are more likely to be into Trump, just because of certain things, certain values that he uh, expressed compared to the Democratic Party. Although I think the people who support the T Man, I think they're misguided. Um, I think he's just part of planned opposition, and the fact that progressive liberals are absolutely insane, like out of their minds at his at his presence. It just I've just got to report a spam bot. Um, but the fact that liberals are just so insane. I mean, I'm like talking about liberals that are uh, people I know. It's not just stuff that I've seen on the news. It's like friends and family are like they'll never talk to you again. They'll disown you. They'll shun you for just I I mean, it's like, it's just politics. And it's always been, there's politics have always been here, and there's always been just very different people that everybody chooses. And I just think that with what's been going on, it's just, it's somehow there's this weird psychological thing that the theater of politics has performed on the mentality of Americans, and that's why I'm like I'm not into it anymore. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to trust in any president. Um, I mean, I think like locally you might have some, but maybe not. Maybe not even. So yeah, I know. I mean, I if somebody wants to hate the guy with whose name begins with a T, that's fine. Like, I could see your point. And the funny thing is like when I talk to somebody who absolutely loathes them and they're looking for a fight or they're looking for me to agree to the level that they're at, and I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I think they are a female to male transsexual, part of an Illuminati Babylonian cult. And then the hate, the hateful, the person who hates Trump with a passion, all of a sudden they're on his side. They're like, no, it's like that's one way to test somebody is like how woke they are, because if they're not going to, I mean, because all these people, all the people that are in the public eye, they all look so weird. They do not look like people we know. They do not look like people we take the bus with or take a plane with. All the high level people, the females have big chins, broad shoulders, large heavy brow ridges, big hands, big feet. What does that mean? Yeah, it's a male to female. And then all the so-called males look at Elon Musk or um, what's the guy from lead singer Bono, uh, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, all of the guys, Trump, Mike, Tom Cruise, they all have small frames. They're petite, they've got small jaws, small brow ridge, no brow ridge, unless they. I mean, there are guys who have surgery, so they get things installed. I mean, just like the male to females, they shave their brow ridge, so they'll shave their jawline. So just look it up. You can look up how people are doing their transition surgeries, and so they're shaving their skulls, but you could still see, let's say, you know, some will shave their Adam's apple, but some things are very noticeable, and others pass. There's a lot of people who are passing as the opposite gender, but I think those people are not well. I think they're um, probably very hateful, very angry, very afraid. Because that's just been my experience of being around male to female transsexuals, is that they're either full of pathos, like terribly demonized, terribly tortured, and or they hated women, they hated biological women, so they were getting the sex change to be something that they absolutely hated. They had absolute contempt for biological women, so they were like, I know what it is to be a woman, even though I'm a biological man and I have all that authority that biological men have, because like, men do have a certain presence. It's just, I don't know if it's pheromones. I don't know if it's a mentality thing. There's just some things you can't erase, and as much as the woke agenda wants to brainwash us that don't see that it's a man. It's like the Wizard of Oz, and don't look behind the curtain. Don't notice that this guy looks has big teeth and a big jaw and big shoulders and big hand and has a deep voice and walks like a man. you know and I don't understand. I don't understand why, when it comes to gender, that's all that matters. We're going to believe whatever anybody says. But when it comes to, like, I don't want to have change my genetics. I don't want to change my blood. I don't want to like suffocate myself. Like, when, which is like, that's very fundamental. And those very same people who are pushing this agenda are like, you're killing people. Now, actually, if we look at the people who are pushing this trans agenda, if you look at how many people are suicidal, because once people start doing these operations and doing these, taking these powerful hormones, especially the little kids, they constantly are having to, number one, see a lot of psychiatrists, take a lot of medications, keep getting surgery, keep getting medical care, because what they're doing, this huge artificial transformation, and it's not a complete transformation. It's this Tonker toy, Lego guesswork that they're doing, and this there's not enough serious science behind this. There's a lot of serious money behind it, and there's a lot of like supernatural behind it. But in terms of like what people are thinking when they do like cross dress, or when they do these operations or hormones, they're expecting relief, they're expecting things to get better, but they find after they do these some of these irreversible things that things don't get better. And that's just like, and I guess, people are like, well, that's business, business is business, and it's up to the customer to do the due diligence. And I've worked in new agey hippy dippy places where people were like that. Like I worked at this organic farm, and they were talking about all the strawberries that had been picked. It fell on the street at the farmers market. They just put it up and they didn't tell anybody. So people are like eating something that was in the muck, and they're like, well, it's up to the customer to do their due diligence. And I was like, what's that? And they were like, the customer should ask. And I mean, these organic farmers were despicable. And the thing is, it wasn't just this one unique situation. If you just look into like organic farming is very exploitative. And yes, I know people are like, oh, woofing is great, and ATRA is another one. And basically, it's human trafficking. It's soft human trafficking, and there's very little regulation, very little protection, and there's a lot of illegal Mexican immigrants, and who knows, maybe other countries now. But when I was working at this one farm, we rotated out of a bunch of illegal immigrants, illegal Mexican workers, and that's illegal. And we had long-term illegal immigrants working there, and the farmers totally knew it, and they were just like, because they can be so abusive. That's the thing, is like, you know, idealistic people who are willing to work, to woof or whatever. They're like, they don't necessarily know how to do healthy boundaries. They don't necessarily realize how bad it is, how bad the exploitation is. Because I was working with people in their, like, they were, I don't know, 19 or 20, 18, 21, and so they didn't realize how bad it was, and it was bad. It was just excruciating. But they were, younger, more resilient, and when you are a teenager or in your early 20s, you don't have a reference point, so you're just like, wow, this is hard, and I'm gonna go sleep after work, and I'm gonna talk to my family, get my mind off it, and people are doing drugs or smoking or drinking, and that's what these farmers expected people to do. They expected that to be the self care. And this organic farm was like, they didn't like hiring people over 30 because they were the ones who complained, because we were saying this needs to be OSHA compliant. And these organic farmers are like, we have no intention of being OSHA compliant. We have no intention of following the Bureau of Labor and Industries, because they're just they get this street cred. Oh, I'm an organic farmer. I must be perfect. I must be sent from heaven. So everybody's like, yay, yay, let me throw money at you. And then the workers are totally exploited, abused, and gaslit. And nobody wants to listen to the workers talking about the organic farm, because everybody's like, oh, come on, don't ruin my dream that organic farmers are perfect. I talked to this woman who was getting her master's in some sort of agricultural something or other, and I told her about my experience with an organic farm and with CSA. And she was like, "This is how it is. This is how it is across the board." And if you look at what OSHA protects, and when I had my experience, it was like 2005, and OSHA had a, I don't know, 13 or 14 things. And so miners, coal miners, have the worst. I mean, they are seriously just. they have the worst of it, worst of everything. And but I would say farm workers have the second worst. And because I filed a complaint with OSHA because the farm I was working at, this organic farm, violated like 4 or 5 out of like the 13 or 14 different things. That was significant. And then I don't know if the farm paid off the OSHA guy or if the OSHA guy, I don't know what was going on, but um, OSHA guy was like, "Oh, I didn't find anything, or I found one thing," and they apologized or something like that. And so even OSHA isn't supporting, like, isn't protecting the worker. And when I don't know, got in touch with them a year or two later, and they like closed the office. They only had like two people when I was talking to them in 2005, and then they went down to one or none. So it's like there's nobody working in the state of Oregon in OSHA, or at least when I was checking. There's like what's one person for the state of Oregon? How many farms there were? So that's the thing is like we expect these regulatory bodies to staff these kind of things. We all the my sheltered, privileged, protected, insulated, liberal friends who are going to the or even Republicans or even patriots. They're like, oh, the organic farm or the farmers market, everything's fine. The workers are not exploited, and if they were, there's somebody there to hold them accountable. No, no, there's nobody doing it. The only person that's going to hold it accountable, hold these abusive farms accountable, is the customer, because the public, like, your city does not have enough staff to do its job. Your state does not have enough staff to do its job. The government does not have enough staff. They intentionally, they have like one person taking care of the whole United States. They have one person taking care of the whole state. I mean, they sabotage it, probably because they're, corrupt and stealing money and, building underground bunkers for child human trafficking. I don't know. But so, we need to stop being so deluded and naive and expect that the city government or the state or the federal is going to do anything. I think customers that, if you love this farm, if you love, you know whatever, you need to ask how they're treating their employees, and what are the conditions that the employees are in, because most people don't want to know. They don't, because they know work, entry level work is crappy, and they know that most managers don't treat their employees right. I mean, people, what I've observed about managers is they like bossing people around. It's not that it's necessary. They like seeing people jump. Even nice people, you meet, they used to be a manager, they want to poke the bear. They want to see somebody who's at a disadvantage be afraid. And these are nice people, but fortunately, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So God is going to tell those people, good Christian people, like when they meet Jesus is going to be like, shame on you for trying to scare these people who worked for you, or trying to scare people that don't even work for you, but you just can't stop ordering people around. Because that's what I noticed, like, in these small communities, these gated retirement communities, everybody's getting in everybody's business. So these people have been in management. They've gotten the rocks off, men and women, husbands and wives, making their employees scared, threatening their employees. You're going to lose your job if you don't grovel. And of course, they're not saying that to the worker, but that's the implication. That's what it is. So then they don't get to torture underlings anymore. They're among their peers, and their peers are like, "No, you're not going to do that." To me, and people are like, "Yes, I'm better than you," and they're all in their little retirement home hating each other because they never learned manners. They never learned how to be humane. And so they're like they got their rich barbarians, soulless, heartless SOBs that are fighting each other because they never learned how to get along. They just knew how to. They just had the power. They had the money. They had the influence, and they had a lifetime of tormenting their staff, their um, employees, and then they retired, and then they're like, but I want to get my power trip. I want to make people afraid. I want to control them because I know their lives better than they do. I know what they need right in that moment better than they do. They need to keep working, working, working every single second, every single minute. They should never ever talk. They should never ever look up. They should never ever take a breath. They should never ever go to the bathroom. They should never ever take a sip of water. No, 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 because then you're being lazy. There are people who think that, you know, and that's a lot. That's a lot of managers. And then people have the nerve to be like, nowadays, 2023, complaining that entry level workers aren't as abundant as there used to be, like American English speaking entry level workers. People are like, those they're lazy. Number one, they're probably dead, or they're sick, or they're kind of hunkering down, trying to wait until the jabs and the swabs and the suffocation kind of dies down, because it can rear its ugly head anytime at any job. People are like, I'm all of a sudden, managers are like, I'm a doctor now. I'm going to take your temperature and I'm going to shove things up break your from plate. So, and then the people who are bashing lower, entry level workers for not lining up to be abused. They like, people think that they can bash people for trying to preserve their life, and they're probably bashing a lot of dead sick people anyway right now. So we are in such a strange situation, but I just wanted to throw that out there, and thank you for watching. God bless.